Hi, and welcome to episode 83 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. In this episode, I am going to have a little bit of all of the above, as well as some acquisitions and video from the first ever fibre event that I've been to. Can't believe it's taken me this long to get along to one, but I look forward to sharing some of that with you. My name's Nina, also known as Give Me a Crown across the internet, and I'm coming to you from the Central Tablelands in the central west of New South Wales in Australia, and today is Wednesday the 16th of May 2018. It has been fairly busy, so I've got a fair amount to show you, so we might as well get on with it. My first and only finished object is just a little project. I decided to do a bit of a test spin with this fibre from Skein. And this is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon blend, and it's in the colourway Vintage Christmas. And I decided to just try to challenge myself, so I only took off about 10 grams of fibre just to sort of see how I went. But my goal was to try to take certain bits of colour out of here, use my hand carders, and create a gradually colour changing yarn. I spun up the yarn and then I decided to crochet it into a little square just to see how the colour changes were working. So I started off the mitered square here, crocheted up, and then once I got towards the end of the yarn ball, I just did a little border edge with the last of the yarn. I'm just going to use this as a little mug rug, but it was fun to sort of see how my blending had worked, because you can see some of the colours in here that I had taken off, and so there were sort of bits of a fair amount of white in here. So in some sections I was blending more of the white with the pink and then less of the white with the pink and what have you. So it was a fun little experiment. It hasn't sort of convinced me whether I would do that for the whole of this fibre yet, because there was a fair amount of effort involved with hand carding into little roll lags before I did the spinning, so I'm not sure if I have the patience to do all of that myself. I might just end up spinning this in just a basic way of trying to manage the colour as I get to it rather than preparing it first. My works in progress are all knitting related, and it was so nice to see so many people loving this yarn that I showed off in the last episode. This is Miss Click Clack's Livingston Merino in the butternut snap colourway, and I have cast on. So I did some calculations on my swatch and started a jumper. So you'll see I'm actually wearing my Carradon Hill jumper that I showed last time, because it is so nice and squishy and wonderful, and it has this roll collar, so it's just a stockinette collar, and I've done the same with this one. Then did some calculations about my raglan increases, and I have just recently, last night, split for the sleeves, so there is some yarn just holding those sleeve stitches in place at the moment, and I need to try it on now. I had tried it on before I split for the sleeves and it looked like it was the right size, but I'll give it another try once I get a few more rows in from where I'm at the moment, because I think I've only just done one row so far after splitting, but I think it's looking fabulous. I am currently alternating 2 balls of yarn. It's just something that's helpful to do with indie dyed yarns, because the dye lots can be the dyeing on each skein can be a little bit different, even though it's from the same dye lot. So with the alternating skeins, I'm doing it on the back. I'm going to try not to lose any stitches. So that is just to the back of my right shoulder, and that's the inside. I'm just alternating every single row, just twisting the yarns together. and continuing on with the other skein. And I think what I'll do now that I've split for the sleeves, I'll probably cut one of the yarns and then continue doing the alternating, but do it on the side. I don't think I'm going to do any kind of faux side seam kind of things on this. I think I'm just going to knit stockinette in the round. Not yet sure if I'm going to do any waist decreases and increases. I might not. I'll see how I feel once I get to that point. I'll be trying it on regularly and getting a sense of how it's going to turn out. I'm also going to make sure that I keep some of this yarn from these two balls. So I've been using these two to knit the whole of the top so far, and I'm going to keep some aside so that I can use them on the sleeves, so that when rather than use two fresh balls of yarn for the sleeves, I'm using some that has been used up here already. So if there is any difference in the yarn balls, and I don't expect that there probably is, because Miss Click Clack is a genius when it comes to dyeing yarn, so I will just make sure that there's a bit of the yarn that was up here flowing into the sleeves before I use any other yarn balls. So it should be completely no differences should be visible. Because with some yarns, you might, if you sort of knit the top part with some skeins and then you use different skeins for the sleeves, you may get an obvious change at where you've joined in the sleeves. I'm not yet sure if I will knit the whole of the body first, or I think I'm going to just sort of knit a small part of the way down, and then I will do the sleeves, and then I'll complete the body, just sort of seeing how much yarn I've got. But I made sure that I've got a good quantity of this yarn, so I don't think I'm going to have any troubles whatsoever with running out of yarn like I have in my recent projects. So really happy with how this is looking so far. Super excited for it. I think it's going to be an absolute staple in my wardrobe. I'm going to wear it lots and lots and lots. I'm hoping that I will have it ready in time for Bendigo, but we shall see. This is the second of my Felici socks, or yeah, I guess I'll call them Felici socks, even though the toe is Knit Picks Stroll, and then the rest is Knit Picks Felici. I've got the other sock here, which I've gone up to a certain point, and I'm just going to knit this one until I get to the same point, and then sort of keep going until I run out of yarn. It was interesting when I was casting the second one on, I found that my gauge must be tighter because this toe, it's not going to come up on here because it's so blown out, but the toe was actually just a little bit smaller, and I don't know if it's because this has been sitting in my bag for, I think I cast on the toe probably 6 months ago, so it's just sort of relaxed a bit. It seemed like the height of the toes was also not matching, so I've actually added an extra row onto here. It's still a little bit shorter than the one I had knit before, but I'm just going to have to, I don't think it's going to matter if my toes are a little bit slightly different. I am knitting the second one from a second ball, and I have figured out that it is wound in the opposite direction to the first one, so I will get my stripes going in a different sequence. So I just decided to get this second sock happening because I will need it for some travel knitting that's coming up, and sock knitting is absolutely perfect for travel knitting. So apart from that, I don't think there's too much to say about these socks. I will share more about them once they get to a slightly more reasonable length. My final work in progress is my scrap yarn blanket. I've only put a couple of squares in, but this one is some yarn from Dragon Horde Yarn. It's in the Trelawney colourway, and this one is some, I think it's a Knit Pick Stroll that was a leftover in my mum's stash, so I decided that it needed to come into this blanket as well. So I'm trying to keep up with maybe about a square a week, and then by the end of this year I should have a finished blanket, but we'll see how we go. Recently, I have actually been sitting underneath this blanket, even though it's got yarn tails going everywhere and it's a slightly odd shape at the moment, but it's been keeping me cozy in the evenings. So then I have some acquisitions from the Orange Fibre Muster. So I'll share those in a little bit, but first I thought I'd just share my thoughts on going to my first ever fibre event. It was about a week and a half ago in Orange, which is about 45 minutes drive from here. And I don't quite know if it's a yearly event or it sort of happens in the region each year or something like that, but it was my first time to go along. I had heard about sort of a fibre muster of some sort last year, but I couldn't make it. I figured that it was going to be fairly much fibre related because it's put on by the Orange Spinners and Weavers Guild. But there were 30 different stalls, and I have to say that yarn fumes are real. When I got there, I just felt this happy vibe for being in a big hall with lots and lots of people with fibre and yarn all over the place. It was mainly fibre, but there were a few yarn sellers, which was fantastic. And I wasn't after anything in particular. My fibre stash is pretty healthy at the moment, and yarn wise, I know that I've got some other fibre events coming up and I have particular projects that I want to shop for. So I was pretty restrained, I think. I just bought a few little bits and pieces, but it was fantastic to attend and to meet the people there. Everyone was incredibly friendly, and I had a lot of fun chats with people who sell fibre and yarn and all sorts of related things. I'll pop in some video. I'm still very much learning how to try to take footage from things like that, but it was a fun little experiment for me. So as I mentioned, it was held in a large hall and it was fairly squishy when I first turned up. There was a lot of people. There was a knitting needle jewellery shop from Needle Soup. Waratah Fibres had hand-dyed yarn and fibre. Yarn Barn had mill offcuts, combining multiple fibres. Yummy Yarn & Co., a wool shop from Dubbo, had a glorious table including indie dyers. There were more fibre tables whose names I didn't see. Carcoar Pottery and the Humming Alpaca had their stunning yarn bowls, buttons and even a fibre spinning device to get rid of vegetable matter. Felt Fine had every type of fibre you could imagine, as well as sock blanks and yarns. Petlin had drop spindles that were lightweight and steampunk style. Frank Williams had turtle spindles and other tools, such as his new chakra spinning wheels. Adagio Mills had their always amazing alpaca yarns. Overall, I didn't buy too much, but here are the things that I picked up. So the first is this yarn from Fibre Lily, and it's an Aussie sock in the colourway Ivy. It's 100 grams, 420 metres, 80% Australian merino superwash and 20% nylon. And this was in the Yummy Yarn & Co booth. Love, love, love those colours. Not entirely sure yet what I'll do with it, but couldn't resist. I think there's just some amazing depth to it. It would make all sorts of amazing things, whether a hat or part of a jumper or cardigan or something. So very, very happy that I found this. I also picked up some Adagio Mills. I find it really hard to go past their booth without picking something up. This black 4-ply alpaca yarn is one that I picked up to go along with the leftovers that I've got from the vest that I knit recently. I think it's going to combine very well. And this 12-ply yarn is just incredible. It's so just squish, squish, amazing. It's going to make for something beautifully chunky, and there is some yarn at the moment coming off from it because I have actually been tinkering around with it, but I'm not ready to show that yet. So I will hopefully be settled with my little swatch soon, and I'll share that with you very soon. From Adagio Mills as well, I picked up some unicorn fibre wash. I haven't tried this one before, and I tried it the other day, yesterday I think, to rewash one of my shawls, and it's still drying, so it seemed to smell nice, and I will give a proper update on that once I've sort of taken my shawl back off from the blocking mats and given it a proper sniff, but it seems to be good. I also picked up this Waratah fibre, very different to what I usually pick up, but it's a merino silk blend, so I think this one's only got 30% silk and 70% superwash merino. I'm guessing maybe just plain merino, and it's going to be a little bit of an experiment for me to practice on before I tackle a skein braid, because I think that one has more silk in it, and silk is something that I haven't really spun too much with before, but the higher the silk content, the slipperier the fibre is to spin, so this seemed like a good thing to practice on. I didn't get the name of the seller. She didn't have it on her packaging, unfortunately. So she was lovely, but I don't know what her name was. Sorry about that. And the last acquisition was this fibre from Felt Fine. It's a 250 gram pack of different coloured autumnal fibres. They're, from memory, they are merino. It doesn't sort of say on here, but I'm pretty sure it was merino. And this is going to be something for me to experiment with to see how I could get some sort of colour changing yarns, kind of like what I was experimenting with the crochet rug mat thing that I made earlier. So I love these colours, and it was lovely to see all the different things that Felt Fine had. They had a lot of different types of fibre, and I will definitely be keeping an eye on their shop as I need more fibre. So I had a fabulous time at the Orange Fibre Muster. I will definitely go along again if it happens next year, even if it happens a little bit further out. It's a good day out to go and see all the things that people are making and selling and what have you. I also have a little giveaway to announce. So in the last episode, the Spin Along prize winner turned out to be a knitwear designer. So Wendy Cudd has a few different items for sale on Ravelry. She has a few cowls, some mitts, and a gorgeous 6-colour shawl. And she has offered up a pattern of the winner's choice to the Give Me a Crown podcast. She kindly offered me a pattern as well, so I chose the Waverley Beach cowl because I'm sort of in the mood for cowls at the moment. I think that I might need a few in my wardrobe, but the winner will be able to choose whichever pattern of hers that they would like. So to enter, pop along to the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group. I've set up a thread there for the giveaway, and you need to be a member of the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group. Let us know in the comments to that thread what you're thinking about casting on next. Are you thinking about jumpers or pot holders or socks? Or I'd love to know what's itching to hop onto your needles or your crochet hook in the near future. I will draw the winner on the next episode, so good luck. And go and check out Wendy Cudd's Ravelry shop. I'll pop the link down below on YouTube. As for just some general chatter, my garden is still going along, which is a bit surprising considering how frosty it's been here. I'll pop some video here about how my raised herb cart thing is going. Not too bushy and big yet, but there is definitely some growth happening. I think part of my obsession with gardening is similar to the obsession with knitting, that sometimes you just got to wait and wait and wait. And it might seem like nothing's happening, but then suddenly things start happening and it starts to sort of look real. I seem to have those sorts of adventures with my knitting, and gardening sort of has the same sort of waiting and hoping. that it's all going to work out, and usually it does. So I'm very happy with how that's going. And I've got some snow peas and I think they're sugar snap peas. They're sort of growing along a little bit. Not too sure if I planted them too late or too early or whatever, but they seem to be growing, and hopefully they'll turn into something at some point. There was also some snow on the forecast last Friday, and I kind of figured that it wouldn't turn up here because I'm a bit too low to sea level. But it was forecast for orange, and on Friday morning I was looking at social media and seeing the snowfalls in Orange and a few other places. So it took me a little bit of time to get around to it, but in the afternoon I decided I had to go and hunt down the snow. And I kind of expected that it wouldn't be there by the time I got there, and it was raining when I got to Orange, so I wasn't too convinced. I did a bit of shopping and looking around in Orange, but then I went to have a look. I went to the sort of bottom of Mount Canobolas, which is where usually when it snows, that's where it's meant to be. And I was surprised that I found some snow. It was kind of magical driving along these little roads and seeing snow by the sides of the road. And then once I got to Mount Canobolas, there was snow on the ground everywhere. It was very slushy because it had warmed up a bit and it was raining, so I didn't go hiking around and sort of trying to really experience the snow. Some people were trying to make some snowmen. I don't know how successful they really were, and it was cold and rainy, and it just made me realise that next time it snows out this way, I should go along earlier and make sure that I check it out before the temperatures rise. But I had been worried that the roads would be icy, and they weren't. But obviously next time it snows, I will make sure that I'm careful as I drive there, but I definitely want to see snow a bit more properly, and hopefully this winter we'll get some snow here in the little village where I live. But who knows? We'll have to just wait and see. That's it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you're getting lots of crafting time and making all sorts of wonderful things. Feel free to pop by the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group, and there's I think it's a say hello thread and also the episode thread, so feel free to share what you're up to, or if there's anything that you'd like to know about me. I'm open to questions and all that kind of stuff, so I will leave it there, but I will see you soon.